If you leave it a bit longer in the warm, then it just becomes a bit more of a tangier taste. I think that's all that we're actually putting on the list for 2026. This time has also allowed us to catch up with some of our hobbies. One thing I'd mentioned was that Aidan was collecting wine bottles. Welcome to another week here in rural Germany. Well, with the snow being as it is, we're not getting much done at all renovation wise. So we're starting to take a bit of a slower pace of life just for a week or two until it passes. When I say a slower pace of life, what I mean is we're not renovating, but we're stocking up the fires, we're cutting the wood and we're shoveling snow. So while we're in this slower period of the renovation, I thought I would just explain to you what our plans were for the floor. Now, as you know from the previous video, we have to underpin, so we are going to do that in concrete. But when it comes to the actual flooring, we're going to go quite eco. We want the house to be as efficient as it possibly can and therefore save money on bills, but also preserving it for future life as well. Now, I have a little drawing here because the research I've done is all in German, and I'm not even going to try and attempt to go through that in German, but to try and explain it to you, I have my little diagram here. In fact, I'll just show you. Hopefully it'll focus on that. So basically we have an earth floor, and then what we're going to do, we've been researching a product called Glapor, which we feel at the moment seems to be the best option for us. I mean, if you've got any other suggestions, please put them in the comments box below, because we're still probably 6 to 8 weeks away from actually starting the project for the floor. So we have got a little bit of time to look at alternatives. So as I say, if you've worked with different products or have any suggestions, please pop them below. But with the Glapor range, the first layer would be their geotextile layer. So that goes on top of the earth floor that we have. And then on top of that, which is something I think we mentioned, I can't remember how many videos ago, it was in one of the previous videos. One thing I'd mentioned was that Aidan was collecting wine bottles so that we can do a glass floor in this house. Well, Glapor actually have a product which is recycled glass. So on top of the Glapor recycled glass then comes small pieces of clay. So then that would go down next. And then on top of that, you would have a hard insulation layer. And then we'll put the underfloor heating on top of that. And then our flooring, which I'm pretty sure, we're sort of 96% sure we're going to go wood on that. So that's what's happening across the road. We're not going to use concrete, only for the underpinning. But the rest of the build will have a bit more of an eco-friendly solution. This time has also allowed us to catch up with some of our hobbies. And this was the artwork that I'd started a few weeks back. My little paint by numbers. It is much smaller than I originally thought it was, and so therefore sometimes I do have to get my looking glass out. Hello, beautiful. Hello, gorgeous. Come say hello. I thought I would just share with you some of our ideas and plans for across the road and our goals for 2026. And obviously we would like to get completely finished across the road, but the reality is, well, I'm not sure that'll happen. We don't have that much time outside of work, to be honest. But if we can get the floor done, the walls up, certainly downstairs across the road finished by the end of the year, that would be great. Anything above that will be a bonus. We also have a few bits here on the main house that we also would like to do alongside. The spare room, that's going to have a bit of a makeover whilst there's nobody in it. Aidan and I's bedroom, we would like to do a bit of an update in there. Basically, we're fairly desperate for a new bed and mattress. We are probably going to try and get that done this year. Aidan would like to make the frame for the bed, but obviously we'd have to get the mattress. In the barn, we've actually got some laminate and some cork laminate, which it's not the prettiest, but we're thinking that might have to go on our bedroom floor just to reduce some of the draft coming up. Probably going to be quite a while before we can afford to get on to renovating this house. So we've got to make it as comfortable as we can, because when we do across the road, yes, potentially we could move over there while we do this, but the idea is that we will have rental property over there which will pay for this. But yeah, so that's a sort of smaller project that we're thinking about doing. We are also wanting to improve the garden. Back in 2020, we built a raised terrace in the back garden, and the wood, we just use old wood from the barn, and now that's starting to rot through, so we're going to terrace it properly. So that's on the list for 2026. I think that's all that we're actually putting on the list for 2026. I mean, I say all, obviously there's quite a lot on there really. But we've also got an old house, so you never really know what's going to come up that needs to be fixed, sorted, mended, dealt with. There's all sorts of things that can come up in an old house. So it does give us a little bit of wiggle room there as well, and a bit of flexibility. But one thing that Aidan and I would like to do a little more of is travel together, because 2025 we really saw very little of one another. I was in a country, he was in a country. Very seldom were we here together really. We were sort of a bit like passing ships. So it's quite important for us to spend a bit of time together this year as well. But it has just started raining, so the snow is starting to clear. I mean, you still can't see the garden, but it's still very cold also. But it's raining, so fingers crossed. It means that we can make a start on some of these 2026 goals. What are your goals for 2026? Let me know below what sort of goals that you've set for yourself. I'm actually going to make yoghurt, so I've put a litre of milk into the saucepan, and I'm just really slowly, gently warming it up to about 180 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. So we keep stirring when it gets just before boiling or up to temperature. So if you don't have a thermometer, it's just before boiling, then we take it off the heat and cool it down. You must keep stirring so it doesn't burn on the bottom. Be really patient with this part, it's really important. So then you just pop it off the heat and allow it to cool down to 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Keep stirring when it's cooling down to prevent skin forming on the top. And then when this is cooled to a temperature where you can dip a clean finger in for 3 seconds or more, then basically we just take some of this and pour it into yogurt, old yogurt that we already have, and then stir it in around just to get it to the right temperature, and then it can go back into the milk. All that's left now is to jar up. So that's made 2 jars at 1 litre of milk,
and then we just wrap it up and keep it somewhere warm overnight. And so once the yogurt has been set, you can then take it to the fridge. If you leave it a bit longer in the warm, then it just becomes a bit more of a tangier taste. But generally speaking, 6 to 12 hours is sort of more than enough. Overnight is pretty good. It depends. We leave it a little bit longer here because we don't have central heating, so it gets quite chilly overnight. So it's about lunchtime now the next day and we're putting it in the fridge.